So we're thrilled that we have so many of you with us tonight for this very exciting, very interesting new initiative for Women's League. And it's really funny because when Limo and I planned this program, we said, well, maybe, I hope we get 20 people. I really hope. And I mean, we have over 70, nearly 80 people tonight. So we're extremely excited, and we really hope that you're going to enjoy it as much as we do. So before we begin, I just want to just talk about a couple of housekeeping things. If you can just make sure that you have your name up, and if you want to put your organization, your sisterhood, and also if you can write in the chat your sisterhood name, your synagogue, and why you are here, that would be fantastic. So you can do that through the course of the evening. So as I said before, I'm Corinne, and Limo, introduce yourself. Unmute.
Hello, hello.
That's it. And that's Limo, my partner in crime. So we really, as I said again, thrilled to be here. And this is just going to blow Women's League right out there into the movement. It's a huge undertaking. So we're so thrilled. Is Debbie on the line, on the call?
I'll be greeting everybody this evening.
Okay, so Rabbi, could we ask you to do that, please? If you could bring greetings, say a few words.
I will. So
Thank
good to
you.
see everybody this evening. I'm sure most of you probably know me, but just in case, I'm Rabbi Ellen Wolins Fields. I'm the Executive Director of Women's League for Conservative Judaism. Debbie unfortunately wasn't able to be with us this evening, but we are always a partnership. So I'm bringing greetings to everybody. And one of the most important things, those who got on early, I hope I don't, Limor, you don't mind me saying, she was discussing her son. And one of the greatest things that we can leave our children is this precious earth, because our parents gave it to us. And that's, you'll hear about sustainability, that we need to, God gave us the earth as a loan, and we give it back to the next generation to make it even better, but definitely not to make it worse than we have it now. So I am thrilled that we have a sustainability committee, and that, well, right now it's Corinne and Limor. I don't know who else is on it, but we can create a community and a committee. And it's wonderful to be with everybody this evening to talk about one of the greatest gifts we have, our earth. So thank you very much.
Thanks,
and
Rabbi.
Regards from Debbie as well.
Thank you, Rabbi. And I have to agree with you. We don't want to destroy this. We want this for generation to generation, Lador Vador. Okay, so I'm going to ask Julia and Limo, if you can put the thing up on the screen, and Julia can, if you don't mind, Julia, if you could start reading this passage called Creation, Revelation, and Redemption.
God, our creator and creator of the world, we sing your praises in every season. Your presence is known to us in autumn when shimmering golden leaves catch our eye. We stand in the hushed forest and are filled with awe. You cover us with a blanket of soft white snow as a mother her child. The fresh awakening of spring stirs in us a gladness. Each spring you give us rebirth. We are cleaned as the earth in a spring rain. And summer's full blossoming and gentle breezes in an overflowing of joy and beauty. Life is a journey, like a meandering stream that skips over rocks and branches on the way to a mountain lake. Sometimes we too encounter obstacles on our path, but we reach pools of contentment. Nature gives to us beauty, joy, and peace. Let not the worldliness of the times diminish nature's simple joys. Let us pause in our hurried lives to contemplate your infinite wonders and to know ourselves. God, grant us the wisdom to preserve that which has been entrusted to us, so that our children and our children's children will be free to find nature's solace. Linda Gilmore.
Thank you so much, Julia. Julia is our our head of our education committee, along with Ellen Bresnick. And I don't know if she's on, but if she is, she'll wave. And so we just wanted to thank them for the support in putting this together. It was, as Corinne said, a huge undertaking. I'm going to let Corinne introduce a little bit how we got here, what we are, and where we're going. So Corinne, take it away.
Okay, so a few months ago, in fact, it was towards the end of last year, Rabbi Ellen contacted me and she said, I was approached by another rabbi that I know. She wants to know if Women's League would perhaps like to get involved in a sustainability program. And seeing as your environment chair, why don't you go along to the meeting? It would really be nice. So I went along, and I was really absolutely in awe by the fact that I was one little person in the whole Masorti movement. This is something that we are embarking on, which is a sustainability program, which is going to extend right across the whole Masorti movement. So the exposure to Women's League is just incredible. And the fact that they even asked us to join this movement speaks for itself how wonderful Women's League is. So we sit on a roundtable committee with, you can see the names of all the organizations, and everyone talks about what sustainability means to them, and we're going to plan. And the idea is that this is a 7-year project because of the Shemitah year. And so it's something that is worldwide and long-reaching, and it's going to take a while. And I remember saying to Rabbi Ellen, "Oi, I don't think I can do this on my own. Maybe you could give me some help." And I got the wonderful help from Limor, and we now work really well together. So we meet round about every month, and very interestingly enough, it's only Women's League out of all these organizations that we actually have put something together, and we are sort of the models for all the other organizations. And Women's League is going to blow them out of everything, because the work that we're doing, everyone's copying us, in other words. So our theme is sustainability today, tomorrow, and Lador Vador, because we've got to leave this earth for all the generations to come. And we decided that we were going to base our themes, because every year or every 6 months or every 3 months, it's going to be our choice. We're going to pick a different topic that relates to sustainability and talk about it and learn about it. So we're going to start off with energy, with water and energy, the types of energy, preserving energy, transportation, then water, which those of you who know me know that it's my pet passion and love. And this is what I want to really get into: preserving water, water pollution, preserving our oceans, protecting our sea life. In a few years, we're going to be so fished out that there are going to be no more fish in the sea. The earth, the soil, heat, wildfires, composting, protecting the earth. All these wonderful things that we're going to do. Next slide, Limor. Limor?
You got it? I got the next slide up.
All right, space, food, and value. So space, air quality, climate change, which is really important, effects on the natural environment, the food, the hunger, the food sources. If we deplete all our food sources, what's going to happen? Animal protection, waste action, and treating one another properly. Environmental racism, Petukah Nefesh, and preserving life, which is a very Jewish value. We all know how to recycle, but we want to open our eyes to more and take it to the next level. We want to sustain the earth for as long as we can. And we all know that this is a Jewish value. There are many famous quotes, like when God told Adam and Eve, this is your garden that I made for you. You need to tend it and look after it. So we are commanded to look after the earth. It's God's commanded us to do that. And as Jews, it's really, really, really important. And as we go through all the different aspects that I've just listed, you're going to see how unbelievably important it is and what we as Jewish women can do. And I'm hoping my goal for this is that the sustainability will go right through Women's League. All the sisterhoods will be talking about it, and it'll filter right through into all the synagogues, the sisterhoods, the states, Canada, the whole world, all our affiliates. So this is huge, and we are so thrilled, and I'm so excited with this initiative, and I'm sure you're going to be as well. So sit back and enjoy, and you're part of a very, very special initiative, and just enjoy it.
We have so much information to impart on you in 1 hour. It's very difficult, but there were 2 commitments that we made when we put this together. One commitment was that we were going to study Jewish text every time we got together. So we will have some text for you in a little while. The other thing was that we wanted to make it a little bit interactive and do a little workshop. So even though this workshop is going to be a little bit shorter than our normal one, when we do our programs 4 times a year, I just wanted you to experience a little bit of workshops. So I want everyone to relax, put your feet on the floor, make sure you're in a comfortable position. And I want you to close your eyes. And I know that's going to be weird that we're all on Zoom supposed to be looking at each other, but close your eyes, put out both your hands. I want you to take your right hand and move it up and bring it back. I want you to take your left hand, move it down and bring it back. Okay, now you can open your eyes.
That was the easy part.
Now I'm going to make it a little bit more difficult. When I say the word down, I want you to move up. When I say the word up, I want you to move down. So now close your eyes again. Put your hands out. I want you to take your left hand and move it down. Everybody should have their hand up. Now I want you to take your right hand. I want you to move it up. Everybody should have their hand down. Now open your eyes again. All right, you bring your hands down. Now we're going to still switch the up and down, and now we're going to switch the left and the right. Okay, we're really not going to do that because everybody's going to get way too confused. I had a lot of fun because I didn't have my eyes closed watching you guys figure out where you're going. This exercise is really meant to show you that when we have something in our heads, we've learned something a certain way all of our lives. Right is right, left is left, up is up, and down is down. And now I'm asking you to change that. It's weird and it's hard, right? You could do it for a 5-minute exercise, but if tomorrow morning I called you and I said, Corinne, take your left hand and put it up, you would. You wouldn't take your right hand and put it down because you still think that way. And I feel like when we talk about the difference between environmentalism and reduce, reuse, recycle, how we've, you know, again, air quotes, we've always known this. Now we're talking about sustainability. Sustainability is not just reduce, reuse, recycle. We're now saving things for our next generation. So we're not just talking about saving the earth, which we do want to do, but we also want to make sure that economically, socially, that we are saving that world for the next generation and for generations to come. So we have to, we're still reduce, reusing, and recycling, don't get me wrong, but we're going to change a little bit of how we think about it. So keep an open mind to it, because things might seem a little different than what you have learned your whole life. And ask questions, because that's key as well. And again, when we learn texts, they are ancient texts, right? You know, my 17-year-old, when I tell him I was born born in 1971, he thinks I'm ancient, right? You know, my mother was born in 1949. He thinks she's really ancient, you know? But you think of our texts, they are ancient, right? We are still young. We are not ancient. Even if you're older than 1949, not ancient. Okay, so now we're gonna
say something at this point. I have a very good definition of what sustainability is. And this was given to me by a professor of biology and the environment at a university. And she teaches environmental studies. And so I asked her, because I thought she was a good person to ask. And I will read you what she says. She says, sustainability is a system or process is sustainable if it can be continued indefinitely without depleting any of the material or energy resources required to keep it running. So that's how you sustain. You've got to keep, so you can't keep your fish sustainable if you destroy the ocean. So again, a system or process is sustainable if it can be continued indefinitely without depleting any of the material or energy resources required to keep it running. A society which is in balance with the world is a sustainable society. It's continuing generation after generation, neither depleting its resource base by exceeding sustainable yields, and nor is it producing pollutants in excess of nature's capacity to absorb them. So I just wanted to give you the right definition, and I think that it's a really workable one. So thank you for letting me share that.
Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to put up a couple of questions and have you answer them in a poll format. So if you've never used it in Zoom, be patient with it. Basically, a question's going to pop up. You're going to give your answer. We're going to give you, 30 seconds to give your answer. And then we'll put up a slide with the right answer. We'll talk about it a little bit and we'll go to the next question. It will pop up for you. You don't need to do anything. Okay. All right. Question 1. Are we ready?
Okay. So which of these is not an example of reuse? Processing used grain from a distillery into food for cattle, repairing a broken handle on a coffee mug, giving a shirt you don't want anymore to a friend, using chemicals to break down material. So, Limo, how are they going to put in their answer?
Are you able to check your answer in there? Is there a radio button for you? Okay. Corinne, I think you and I see a different screen, so don't worry.
Okay.
We see the radio buttons.
Okay, good.
Perfect.
Do you want us to
do? Press which one you think it is. Multiple choice.
Okay. Do you have to move the thing, Jack?
You're sharing your screen right now. They can see the answer.
Right. That's fine, because we're just doing one question at a time. Okay. So question 1.
The correct answer
Corinne,
was
sorry.
Processing used grain from a distillery into food for cattle. And the reason is because this requires changing the chemical composition, and it can't be done by just anyone. So that is a really good example of reusing something and turning it into something else. Okay, question 2, Limo.
Okay, so you may have to scroll down in that poll window So hopefully you can do that. Which of these cannot be recycled? Iron and steel scraps, aluminum cans, styrofoam, or paper? And we'll give you, 15, 20 seconds to answer that. Okay, everybody ready? The answer is styrofoam. I put this really cute picture here. This is actually a picture from a friend of mine. She decided to let her children play with the styrofoam that came in a box, and it went all over the place, and she had styrofoam for a long time in her house. And styrofoam, as you know, can never be recycled. It really never reduces. It sits there for as long as it sits there. And I picked this text to go with it from Ezekiel. They shall know that I, the Lord, am their God. When having exiled them among the nations, I gather them back into their land and leave none of them behind. Now, we cannot equate styrofoam with people. However, I thought this was poignant just because we don't want to leave anyone behind, and we don't want to leave anything behind for our next generation. Corinne, you ready for number 3?
Yeah, but it's not up on the screen.
Okay. I have to figure out how to get it on the screen, right?
Okay, there we go. No.
Hold on. Where is it?
We can just put the hit the poll at the bottom of the screen and pull it up ourselves.
Okay. So everyone do that. Pick the post poll at the bottom of the screen. See the poll at the bottom of the screen next to like the chat button. If you press that poll button, it will come up and you can answer question 3. Okay.
Do you not have the question?
I'm gonna give you the answer. So it's 80, okay, here you go.
Okay, so the answer is 33%. And the quote that I chose was, our generation goes, another comes, but the earth remains the same forever. And we want to make sure that it does remain the same. And okay, question number 4.
Let me just make one more comment. Sorry, we just thought that very interesting that if 80% of the waste in America is recyclable, they are only recycling 33% of that, right? So if you have in your kitchen garbage cans that are your trash garbage and your recycling garbage, and let's say it's a 50-50 split, right? What they're saying is, of that 50%, which really it should be 80% should be recyclable, but of what you have in your bin, only a third of that is going to be recycled and used for something else. Okay, question 4. What is a carbon footprint? What you find after your electrician has been in the attic, a measure of an individual's impact on the environment, the impression a diamond dealer makes as he walks down the street, or using an electric car instead of a gas-powered car. And the answer is the measure of an individual's impact on the environment based on their lifestyle. There are many, many websites you can go to calculate your carbon footprint. You probably need your energy bill and a couple of other things to figure that out. You have to know what kind of a car you drive, how far you drive, that sort of thing. And it will give you what your carbon footprint is. And that is something that we try to reduce that. Sometimes if you're looking at different, when you're buying a product, what's the carbon footprint of that company? Is that product coming, let's say I live in New Jersey, is that product coming from, a lot of you are from Ohio, driving all the way across the country? Well, those gas emissions are definitely more taxing than, let's say, if it came from Delaware, right? The next state over. So
The
it
other
is
thing
that
is, we really encourage people to walk if it's at all possible, rather than take a vehicle which will emit gas, and motorbikes and all these things which really put so much bad air and pollute the air. So these are things that are really important and for us to start thinking about.
So to go with this answer, we picked a quote from Isaiah. For thus said the Lord, the creator of heaven, who alone is God, who formed the earth and made it, who alone established it. He did not create a waste, but formed it for habitation. I am the Lord and there is none else. So I like two things about this. Number one, I like how at the very end it's, I am the Lord and there is nothing else. Like, this is how I planned this earth for you, and this is what I want you to do with it, right? Almost like a commandment, right? The other thing is, if you know Hebrew, I'm going to point to this word here, tohu, right? The word tohu is, the word tohu means waste here. He did not create a waste. He did not create waste, right? The word tohu we find in Bereshit, in one of the very first psukim of the Torah at all, when it says that the world was tohu vavohu, right? And then we created light, and we created day, and we created all of these things. So I love the word tohu, and I love to point that out, because once the earth was created and given to us, to human beings, it's not meant to be tohu vavohu. It's not meant to be this crazy jumbled place. It's meant to be a place for habitation, a beautiful place. Okay, on to question 5, Corinne.
Okay, I don't have it in front of me.
Oh, I'll read it. Which action does not save energy in your home? Turning all the appliances to standby when not in use, turning off and unplugging all appliances when not in use, turning off all lights when not in the room, and leaving lights only on in the rooms you're moving between. I'll give you a couple of seconds to answer that. Okay, the answer is, go ahead, Corinne.
Leaving lights on in only the rooms you are moving between. And I think that it's probably very common to think otherwise, but this is a really good way to preserve energy. So put the light on when you're in a room, when you leave it, switch it off, go to the next room, kind of thing. And let's try and implement this in our synagogues and in everywhere. Okay, question number 6.
Who or what creates pollution in the world? Man, machines, industry and transport, animals, or all of the above? The answer is all of the above. We pollute the machines, the transport industry, animals, and this is something that is relatively easy for us to control, right? So that's something that that's important.
And I love the picture. I love the picture on the right-hand side here that I'm showing you of all the pollution and this poor duck. I think it's a duck. And that's what I was telling you. You know, this is so polluting for our water and kills so many little animals. And I'll never forget the vision of a little bird with a plastic bag trapped around its neck. So it's really important for us to start thinking about our actions and the repercussions of our actions. And let's not have an ocean that looks like what's in this one. So
Okay,
really good. Any more? We'll read
Question.
the last question.
I'll read the last question. What is economic development? Government funding to individuals during a recession, community development in a depressed city, economic growth over a period of 5 quarters, programs, policies, or activities that seek to improve the well-being of a community.
Take a minute.
Okay, the answer is
Programs, policies, or activities that seek to improve the well-being of a community. And that's any kind of a community, right? A natural community, an industrial community, a housing community. So something really important to think about. The policies and the programs and the activities that go on in different communities.
And I
Okay.
added the Women's League logo in there because as I was reading the definition and trying to find some great graphics to describe it, I thought, wait a minute, Women's League, we are a community. We create programs, we have a resolution committee, we have activities, and we do seek to improve the well-being of a community, the community of our sisterhoods and our Women's League and the Masorti movement and the world at large. So I thought, you know, that was appropriate to put Women's League's logo in there as a catalyst to improve sustainability economic development. Okay.
So we're going to have a discussion now.
No, we're gonna switch it up a little bit. Sorry, Corinne.
Yeah, we're going to
I
have a
think that
discussion in
I think-
breakout rooms.
We're going to do breakout rooms in a little while. I wanted to let Rabbi Ellen speak for a little while. She's got some interesting things to bring in about the Seder. I'd like to do that because we may have extra time, and I'd like to give that extra time to the groups. So Rabbi, we're very pleased to have Rabbi Ellen. She's had such a very, very busy schedule. It was hard to get her on the calendar, but I'm so happy she was able to join us. And I am going to turn it over to you, Rabbi. Do you want me to leave up the slides with the pictures, or do you want to talk for a bit before we do that?
Well, let's put up the first slide that you have for this.
Okay.
Okay. So anybody guess what I'm going to be discussing in terms of what part of the Seder I'm going to be talking about?
Plagues.
Plague.
The plagues, exactly. So the 10 plagues, was the 10 plagues just a natural phenomenon that just happened to take place? Or is it possible that there's scientific explanations behind each of the plagues? So I was able to find a source, thanks to Lee Moore, that called Live Science, that discussed whether or not, believe it or not, they discussed the 10 plagues in this regular science article to see if it was human nature can shift nature, human intervention can shift nature, or is nature shifting us in regards to the 10 plagues. So I'm going to look at each of the 10 plagues to see, did it just happen, or could there have been some event in nature that caused it to happen? So of course, we're familiar with the first plague of blood. So you can take it off now, because that, I don't know if that's what, the wild beasts are creeping me out a little bit. Actually, they all are kind of creepy.
Gross.
Thank you for the graphics though. So the first plague is blood. So we know that Moses had hit Moses and Aaron together caused the plague of blood, that the Nile changed into it. But was that really what happened? It could have been caused possibly by a red algae bloom. Some call that the red tide, which was this microscopic organisms, these algae that actually came into the Nile to cause the water to turn bloody red. So maybe it wasn't just that, it was the algae, this bacteria in the water that caused it. And what would happen if animals, and you could take the slide off so we could see each other. What would happen, please? Okay. What would happen if animals who usually are in water, they're in this water with algae? So they'd probably want to they'd either die or they'd want to get out of it. So could be that's why there was an infestation of the frogs that left, because it turned all of the water supply into blood. And then it was raining frogs, they say. There are actually examples not only in the Torah of raining frogs, but believe it or not, back in 1873, Scientific American existed then too, and they reported that there was a shower of frogs after a rainstorm. So what I'm saying from this article, and also just from thinking that maybe the rainstorm caused all the frogs, maybe they left the bloody water, and they had this like exodus of the frogs. In 1919, there's a book called the Book of Demand that said that the frogs were actually dropping from trees. The whole image of it makes me like gross out a little bit. So, but it could be, it's a similar story to the raining frogs. And as recent as May of 2010, Greece had a situation where there were hundreds of frogs that emerged from the lake in the northern part of that country. So it reminds me of what we learned with Pirkei Avot, that mitzvah goreret mitzvah and avera goreret avera, that one mitzvah leads to another and one sin leads to another. So see the pattern here. The water turns red, bloody from the algae. The algae then caused the frogs to leave. And then what happens when you have these frogs that are leaving? If anybody ever has roadkill around their area and you see like bugs around them, you get flies and gnats. So perhaps that then caused the third plague of lice, the quinine. So they say that this toxic algae in the blood that caused the Nile to turn to red to blood caused a pile of dead frogs that then caused the lice and the gnats and the swarm of all of these insects. And as Mona wrote, that the plagues were cause and effect. It's like if you give a mouse a cookie, the book. So now we have this lice, and of course we know that the fourth plague is wild beasts, the Arov. So Arov. So the wild beasts were probably like wild beasts, hornets, mosquitoes, could be coming from the whole process of all these dead animals. And there was a study in 1996 that there were some epidemiological problems caused by climate disturbances that actually caused the wild beasts. That swarms of bugs and flies bit the flies that then caused soon, but we have one in between, boils. So first let's talk about the fifth plague of Dever. I don't know if any of you are going to see the 10 plagues of your Seder differently this year, but I have a feeling you might. So Dever was this mysterious disease and highly contagious that swiftly killed all of the Egyptian livestock. So that was actually in the past, and there's a study that shows that there was a real plague just like this called Rinderpest. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it correctly, that it was infectious, it was lethal, that these animals were dying. And this same type of disease was seen later on in the 18th and 19th century as well. And when you have this type of disease within the animals, it can cause almost 80% of the livestock to die. And a lot of this is from what we have done in the world. And they say that what happens to the animals, and this is true that it happened 5,000 years ago in Egypt, the infected animals get a high fever, diarrhea, ulcers in their mouths, and you have these diseased livestock. So I said before that the Arov, the wild beast, can cause boils. So we're up to our sixth plague of Shechin. So most of us know what boils are, that it causes painful bumpiness and red swollenness. It's almost as if it was similar to smallpox. That's what the boils was like, that it causes rashes and welts. And there's actually proof of this. from the mummies, that the mummy of Pharaoh of Ramses V, they found that the mummy actually looked as if he had boils on him. And of course, that was from Egypt 3,000 years ago. And it's based on this fact that the mummies here had some type of smallpox. So now you might be wondering about the 7th plague, of Barad, the fiery hail. So what could have caused this? The heavy hail, as we know, many of us have actually witnessed it. Of course, the hail of that time was probably a little different, was accompanied by thunder and streaming fire. And this chaotic weather struck down the people, the livestock, and it was just in the area of the Egyptians, though. So it was a little strange that it happens in some part and not in Goshen. But there's actually evidence to show that 3,500 years ago, there was a volcanic eruption on an island north of Crete, near the Aegean Sea, that could explain this. That from the volcano, it caused it to push out this volcanic ash that was similar to the hail that caused the thunderstorms in Egypt. Are you following? I hope I haven't put you to sleep yet. Okay, we're up to 8, the locusts there. Arbe. I don't have my vowels here, so I have to go through the whole list. So the locusts were a type of pestilence that would devour the remaining plants. If you think about it, I think some of us have probably witnessed this. After the winter, well, hopefully the winter's ending, and now you can see your plants again, and just the snow destroys the leaves from the heaviness of the snow and the hail. Well, that's what happens here, the locusts. And it was a continuation of what happened beforehand. So remember again, one sin leads to the next sin, one Avirah leads to the next Avirah. This volcano eruption created a favorable place for the locusts. So the locusts came out of hiding and they're like, oh, now we can come out and see all of it. And perhaps maybe that's what happened, that this ash fallout caused these weather anomalies, which translated into this higher precipitations, which made it a great place for locusts to be with higher humidity. I also just want to also tell you, if you still all think that God created all of this, that's true. God created all of the nature as well. But now we're up to the 9th plague, which I have to say, if I was there, would be very scary for me. Choshech was darkness. Now it's interesting. There's a theory about this one, but it doesn't really fly so well. There's one theory of an eclipse hypothesis, that there was a solar eclipse, and that's what caused it. But if we remember our Torah study and what we say when we're teaching our children, is that the Egyptians had darkness, but the Israelites had light. So that whole hypothesis about the eclipse really doesn't sit so well here. That really doesn't make so much sense. But there was apparently back in March 5th, 1223, where there was complete darkness because of this eclipse. But this is also possible. So there's the eclipse theory about darkness. How am I doing with time? All right, Limor, I can get to the last one. Okay, good. So the darkness could be the eclipse. I don't really think that sits so well, but it could also be related to the volcanic eruption, which also happened 3,500 years ago in Santorini, that caught all of the volcanic eruption, caused a great darkness as well. And apparently they say that this eruption was only about 500 miles from Egypt. And this event occurred before the Exodus. So now we reach the 10th plague, the killing of the firstborn. This one also was interesting. I didn't know if I totally got this one, but they say that there was possibly an algae that caused, it's like, again, the dominoes effect. The algae affected the blood, and they turned the Nile water bloody. Then it poisoned the animals, and it actually created some types of toxins that caused the grain to be contaminated. And I guess they're saying that because the firstborns were most responsible, perhaps they were the ones who went out and helped with the grain and the word is slipping my mind, but the harvest. You tell I'm not a farmer or a gardener, but the firstborns were the ones to go out to get the grain that was contaminated. And so it caused them to die. and they fall victim to it because they picked the grain that was contaminated. These are all theories, science theories. I do believe in the Torah, but what is it teaching us? What's the, as we say in Aramaic, when you study Talmud, what's the nafka mina? That one activity and one thing that you do has a ricochet effect to affect everything else. I think about some of the water pollution ideas that we have. There was a company that spilled all their contaminants into the water, and then people drank that water, and then there was a whole cancer cluster. So all of our activities, all of what we do has an effect on something else. And what this was all about was to show that perhaps each of the 10 plagues was caused by something right before it, and it was a continual cycle. So part of what we have to do here to learn is to cut that cycle to make the earth better. So thank you,
Rabbi.
Limor and Corinne, for giving me this opportunity this evening.
Thank you, Rabbi. And I have to just go back to, and that's exactly what happens when we study water. I'll teach you more about it. But the food chain. So the one fish eats another fish, which eats another fish, which eats up the insects at the bottom of the ocean. So if you overfish and you get rid of one of the lines in that food chain, the whole food chain's disrupted. So everything works with everything else. Nature's amazing. So thank you, Rabbi. I totally agree with that. And it was really interesting. And it ties up so much with the food chain and water and all that. So thank you.
Okay, so now we are going to go into breakout groups. Let me just put up the little screen here. We're going to go into breakout groups for 6 minutes. And here's what I want you to discuss. And it has to be kind of quick because there's only 6 minutes, right? And there's probably going to be 6 or 7 people in each group. What is one thing you do to conserve the earth and why? And what else can you do? What could you be doing more? What else can you do? I also wanted to, since we just talked about Pesach a little bit and the plagues, after we talk about the plagues and after we start going through the desert, we get to sing Dayenu. And Dayenu is, if you hadn't done this for us, it would have been enough. Had you not taken us out of Egypt, it would have been enough. Had you not brought us to Har Sinai, it would have been enough. Had you not brought us into Eretz Yisrael, it would have been enough. And so this quote of Dayenu, we have had enough, has a secondary meaning. We also have enough, meaning we have a lot of resources and we use a lot of resources, and we call those things first world problems, right? We have too many things sometimes. We have a cell phone and we have an iWatch and we have an iRobot and we have all these great things and these computers and these iPads and whatever. But what else? We have everything we need. What can we do with all those resources to transform the world? So those are the things I want you to discuss in the breakout room. And the breakout room is going to count down 60 seconds when you're leaving. So get someone to control the breakout room, take, a few notes, and maybe we'll have time when we get back to share.
And we're gonna ask you to write some of your comments in the chat when you get back.
Okay, so hopefully we had some fruitful conversations. It is 8:27, so I'm going to respect everybody's time. I would love for you to put your comments in the chat as to what people are doing, what they could do better, what your interesting discussion was. That way we have that all here, and I will do that for my group as well. One last thing before we go, I wanted to share with you our upcoming events. So first of all, I hope that everyone enjoyed themselves. I hope they got to learn. I hope you felt like you participated and we weren't just lecturing at you, even though there was a lot of talking. I hope that we've enhanced your Seder with a little bit of how nature versus man versus woman, are handled on this earth. And like I said, we're going to do these learning sessions 4 times a year. The next session is going to be Thursday, June 16th. We're going to talk about the Shemitah year. And if you're not a farmer, why does it matter to you? And what what kind of implications can it have to maybe take a pause in other parts of your life, not just on your fields. Thursday, September 8th, we're going, so, and then remember when Corinne went through all of the different topics we're going to learn, we were going to start with energy because that one was the first day of creation, but we've got two resolutions right now in Women's League about water and ocean degradation. So we decided we're just going to jump on that water bandwagon and we are going to learn about water.
And because it's my passion, and I said we're doing water first, it's the most important one. And I got involved with Rabbi Rosenthal, who he runs a program called Tikkun Hayam, of which I'm a member, and we have got involved with him and invited him to work with us, and he's a tremendously amazing advocate of looking after the water and the ocean. And one of the things that he taught me, and which I then passed on to people that I know in Women's League, was reverse tashlicht, which means instead of throwing things into the ocean, we take stuff out of the ocean. So reverse tashlicht cleaning, and we're going to have learning sessions on that. And we really hope that whatever we do is going to be taken by all of you back to your sisterhoods and back through Women's League to change our world. So I'm so excited about teaching you about water and tashlicht and the food chain and fishes and all that amazing stuff. And then our actual reverse tashlicht program, where we're going to actually do it, is October the 2nd, and we're going to learn how to do it. And there's certain sisterhoods who already do, and we're going to call on you to give us some help. And I know Florida with Carol Simon already does it. But we're really looking forward to sharing all of this with you. So once again, thanks to Limor for all your help. She does all the techie because I'm not techie. And and I do a lot of the ideas, so we work well together. And our names and our phone numbers and our emails are up if you need us or you want to tell us anything, or please feel free to contact us at any time. And
let me just say one more thing about October 2nd.
Yeah.
It's a big deal for Women's League to be spearheading this program. And we want everyone to participate in North America in any way they can. If they don't feel comfortable going to a beach or a riverside and helping clean up, there are other ways to help. And we are going to be announcing this, like I said, at our roundtable, because we want to get other organizations involved. So, and I know Cincinnati is also doing reverse tashlicht. They've already planned it prior to us even announcing this on October 2nd. So, but we do want to get some volunteers to help coordinate this in your different areas. And like I said, we're going to get other Masorti organizations involved, because we want to make sure that we're doing this from the Tat Shabbat crew to the US Wires to the sisterhoods, men's clubs, environmental committees, programming committees, Chazak, the rabbis, the executive directors. We want to get everyone involved in it. So, so if you have a passion for this, or you just want to help, contact Corinne or myself, and we'll get you involved, because we really want to start hitting the ground running with this, and really making a difference. And I think this really will. And again, thank you to Corinne for introducing us to the reverse tashlicht, to Rabbi Ed Rosenthal, who will be speaking on September 8th. And any questions, please let us know.
And as well, thank you, Rabbi Ellen, because without you having asked me to join with all these movements and involve Women's League, this wouldn't have happened. So it's a little bit like the chain that we were talking about. You asked me, I got involved, I asked Lee Moore, and here we are. So we're really excited, and we hope you are too. And we're going to roll up our sleeves, and we're going to make this earth a better place for everybody. So thank you for joining us, and keep your eyes and ears open, because the Women's League Week will be having lots of information for you about sustainability. So we'll be working a lot together with you on this. So all the best and good night, and thank you for joining us.